how it's helped us as a married couple and as business partners and working together is it's helped us to understand each other.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just tremendous amount of understanding, like more so than ever before. Hello, welcome back to the Two is Greater podcast, where we share our experience with all the ups and the downs of working together without killing each other.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet. No, we've had some close calls. This is our Christmas episode.
Yay, Merry Christmas!
So this episode will be releasing 2 days after Christmas. So we hope that you have all had a very Merry Christmas.
And eaten a lot of cookies.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you already know that we are beside our tree and we have on our Christmas onesies that Jackie coaxed me into wearing. I look like an elf on the, not shelf on the chair, elf on the chair. We have these gifts that are right in front of us that I'm being told are not real.
They are fake. They're
that are
purely
under our
decorative.
tree. They're decorative. Did you buy them for this podcast?
No, I bought them for a Christmas picture last year.
So they're not like fakes to like make sure that I am just totally faked out for my Christmas gift this year.
That's correct. Yours are just hidden throughout the house. I'll get to wrap them eventually.
Anyway, so we're going to do things a little bit differently this episode. So this is going to be part one of a part two episode, and we're going to be talking about something totally different. We're very thankful for all the questions that have come in. We have actually gotten a lot of really good feedback from other people that didn't ask the questions, that, you know, about how great the questions are and just the information that we've been able to share and just kind of open up about it. Really, that's what this is all about. It's just us opening up and sharing our experience working together as husband and wife and the difficulties of that, and having to navigate not just our relationship, but our relationship and our business. You know, we've talked about in past episodes how those things are not really different. Like at no point in time are we not ever like not double negative going on here. We're never not husband and wife, and we're never not business partners.
There you go.
So, you know, just navigating the complexities of that. But one thing that's really helped our relationship is the Enneagram. Mm-hmm. And some of you listening may have just sighed and said, oh my gosh, like enough of the Enneagram. And some of you have just gotten really excited. But before we continue on, just thanks again to all those that have submitted questions. Please continue to submit those. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to wherever you're listening to our podcast. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify seems to be our most popular, but we're literally everywhere that you podcast. Please go give us a good rating and make sure you have subscribed or download our podcast. But also, if you want to be featured, make sure you go and ask a question. We'll drop the link in the show notes, and you can just type it up there and submit a question. And then if we pick yours, we'll ask you to record it for us on a voice memo and send it to us. But anyway, so we'll be back to questions soon. And this may bring up a lot of questions. We would love for you to send in questions. More specifically to stuff that we talk about in the episodes would be great as well.
Yeah.
And so this week we're going to be talking about Jackie's Enneagram type and her personality type, and she's going to be sharing about that. And then in the next episode we're going to be talking about mine.
Yeah.
It's more excited for me to have to do all the talking.
Yes.
But if you don't know what the Enneagram is, first and foremost, we're not experts whatsoever. We're no authority in this field. We literally are just people who have read a few books and just kind of dove into this stuff and used it as tools, right? As tools for, you know, personal growth and for relationship growth. And so basically what it is there's 9 major personality types, and that the idea is that we actually bear all types, right? We will see ourselves in all 9 types. However, there's one major type that will shine more brightly than any of the rest. And that is our Enneagram type, our personality type. And they're just numbered. It keeps it simple. It's 1 through 9. And not going to get super into that, but just kind of, you know, talk to you a little bit about what that is. basically what I really like about it is that it accounts for spiritual transformation. It's not just like, hey, this is who you are, this is who you were born to be, and this is who you'll always be, and this is just your personality. And
And
there's some other tests and things, and it's not something that you really want to just take a test on, because honestly, you really need to be self-aware to be able to take a test and be able to know that you really need to be super self-aware. And to me, I really thought that I was pretty self-aware and probably was, relatively speaking. But when I got into, this book that we read that introduces the Enneagram, it just took it to a whole nother level. And that's really what it's all about, is just a tool for personal awareness and for self-awareness, so that, we can work on those things. We can surrender those things over to God, and God can actually work on those, because until we surrender, then God can't work on those, right? He's not going to force those things. God doesn't force us to do anything. He's not a puppet master. And so if God is going to work on anything in our lives, then we have to submit that to Him. We have to surrender that over to Him. And we can't do that if we've been ignoring it all of our lives.
Yeah.
And so we dive into this, and we dive into tools like these to use that as personal growth, so that we can become self-aware, and that once we are aware, then we can actually hand that over to God, and He can help us heal, and He can help us grow and work through that. But how it's helped us as a married couple and as business partners and working together is it's helped us to understand each other.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just tremendous amount of understanding, like more so than ever before. And it's like, as much as we spend time together, as much time as we spend together, and as much as we work together, it's still, all we would still see is just patterns, right? Or we would only understand each other to the depth that we're able to explain how we think to the other one. And this just kind of gives a straight shot, like, in-depth look at like how someone thinks and feels, and why they think and feel the way that they think and feel, how they perceive the world, basically, because it's based off of experience. And so I do have somewhat of a theory that we're not going to get into. I don't want to take up all of Jackie's time, and I want to keep this one short. I think these are still probably going to run a little bit long, these next two episodes anyway. But I do have a little bit of a theory that, the root of all of our personality types, and Enneagram is no exception, is that the root of it is insecurity. That we have this insecurity at the root of everything about who we are and who we develop into. Because at some point, right, so we go from a little teeny tiny baby, and that everything that we have, right, the security in the world that we know, everything is provided for from our parents. And unfortunately, some people start out in a bad way because of that. But regardless, at some point, we actually, whether we realize it or not, we stair-step our way into creating a larger and larger gap between providing for ourselves and our parents providing for us in everything, right? So that's socially, that's everything. And that's really where a lot of the things come into play. And a lot of the insecurities come into play is when the social aspect of our lives becomes more and more dominant the older that we get. And that's where we tend to run into a lot more insecurities than basic needs not being met. Like we typically will see here in the United States. Unfortunately, there's so many that still deal with that. But anyway, when we experience that insecurity, so first of all, I think that it's really twofold. So it's for one, the type of insecurity that we experience. And then for two, it's how we respond to that insecurity. And that typically shapes who we are. That shapes how we see the world, how we perceive the world. All of our past experiences, as we know, we will shift and we will change, and we'll make rules for life and all these things based off of the experiences that we have. And I believe that the Enneagram helps us realize that, because in the moment, we're not making these calculated steps. We're just coping with things the best way that we know how. And and just going through life and managing, right, the best that we can with what we have and what we know. And so the Enneagram really helps us kind of pull that out and figure out not only who we are, a little bit about who we are, but where it might help us, figure out where that comes from.
Yeah. So
we first heard about the Enneagram. We were listening to Donald Miller's podcast, and he interviewed Ian Morgan Cron, which is a phenomenal resource for the Enneagram and counselor, and does a lot of great work. He wrote a book, The Road Back to You. And in his interview, I found it very interesting. It's like, I'd really like to check that out. And so literally about 6 years ago, around this time, 6 years ago, we were driving to Dallas to visit Jackie's family for Christmas.
Yep.
And it was a long, rainy drive. It rained pretty much the whole time. And so we decided just to dive in and just listen to the audio book version of this book on the way there. And it was just so fascinating. And of course, one of the things that we did is the first thing they tell you not to do, which is type all your friends and family.
Of course, naturally.
So it's like, who do I know that's this way? And don't do that. That's not a good thing. But it's the most fun thing.
It is so fun.
It is so fun. I just can't help myself. I'm bad in that way. But then, so just to set Jackie up, Jackie is my little Enneagram 9. If you're not familiar with that, it's a peacemaker, right? So their primary motivation is inner and outer peace. They want everything to be okay all the time, and they will stop at nothing to make sure that things are okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it ends up being just ignoring the things that are bad to get there, but their primary motivator is basically to feel like everything is okay, right? For everything to be at peace. And the book goes through the numbers in each chapter, starting at 8, goes to 9, and then to 1, and then back through up to 7. And so we get through 8, and we're both like I kind of see a little bit of ourselves in this. And then we get to 9, and like I'm just driving down the roads trying to stay focused because it's rainy. And I look over at Jackie, and she has a hoodie on because, she's just cozy traveling, and she's like crawled inside of her hoodie like a turtle.
I was basically freaking out.
Total turtle shell situation where she's just like tucked into her hoodie, hood is up, like slumped back in the seat, like
panicking.
I don't know. I couldn't see. It didn't look like panicking to me, but like definitely looked like hiding.
Yeah.
And I'm just like looking over. I'm like, Jackie, like, is this you?
And I was like, yes, this is me. This is definitely me.
And her biggest thing she said was, I literally feel like someone's been reading my mind.
Yep. It's scary. It's so accurate.
So I'm like, all right, so tell me about it. Which parts, what's going on? And so, share with us like what you heard, listen to that book. That's like, I know this is me, and clearly you're embarrassed about it, but like, this is me, and why that embarrassed you? So,
it's embarrassing that somebody like realized my tricks. Like I didn't like that. It was like somebody found out like, caught. So when they start the chapter, they have like these like one-liners where they say, several different sentences, about like statements about that number. For a 9, they mentioned, not a self-starter. Like I tend to procrastinate. I really enjoy being outside, and I'm totally good to do, what everyone else wants to do. I'm totally cool with that. And, I was like, oh my gosh,
some of those don't seem that bad.
They don't seem that bad. But when you get into the chapter, you kind of realize like the motivation behind it. And it's like, oh, wow. Like, okay, that's really me. That's really me. So it got really real. But I think that beginning part is really kind of what clued me into like, okay, rats, I think this is me.
Like there was enough of them consistently that's
Yes.
like, I can't avoid this. Like this is
me.
all of these are too accurate.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was undeniable.
Was there any one particular like line or quote or whatever that was like so dead on, like I can't believe this, like this is the most like me?
There were a few for sure. One of the ones that sticks out to me that I can remember off the top of my head was, it's like, I'm not a self-starter, but like once I get going, then I can really get things done. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, because it takes me a while to get going. But then I'm like, yes, I can do this. And I get a bunch of stuff done. And then I'm exhausted. I'm like totally tapped out. But yeah, it was very interesting. You know, he goes on to continue into the chapter and says, he relates nines to sleepwalkers, which was very interesting to me, because I never, listening to the chapter, he like put words to things that I had felt for a long time, but never really could explain or express to you.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of why this was so helpful to us, you know, like you'd mentioned. I think the thing that I related to the most in the beginning, though, was that I'm a procrastinator. I'm not one to be motivated and get things going. I'm very much a procrastinator. I think you have seen that very much in our business. Bless your heart.
So you said that, you know, in the book he relates it to sleepwalker.
Mm-hmm.
Like what does that mean? Like what does that mean specifically?
Yeah, so he goes on to say like nines are very prone to laziness, but they're also very prone to like being asleep to negativity, being asleep to their own emotions, and not realizing what's actually going on. He also mentions that they're asleep to their anger. I think for
She-Hulk.
I think for a long time, I just said that I was frustrated a lot. I was frustrated, like, oh, I'm just so frustrated. And like listening to this book, I realized I'm not frustrated, I'm angry.
Yeah.
And like, oh, that hurt. That hurt deep because I was like, anger feels bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's perceived as a negative emotion.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, I mean, like the Hulk is so destructive when they get angry, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I
you won't
bad?
like me when I'm angry.
Yes.
Yeah.
You won't like me when I'm angry. Oh no. Yeah, so that one hit home big time. I was a little scared of that. It makes you like very embarrassed listening to the rest of it because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm angry all the time. I'm not just frustrated at things, I'm very angry. It was wild. But figuring out that I was like asleep to that was weird too.
Yeah.
Because I realized through that I'm also asleep to anything negative in order to avoid conflict because I don't want to.
Like what? Like give us an example.
So let's say it goes deeper than just like, oh, well, what do you want for dinner? Like, oh, well, I'll have, like, I don't care. What do you want to have? You know, it's a lot deeper than that. So like.
Right, because this, I mean, I was raised in the South, and that's just what you did. Like, that was your kindness. Like,
yeah. Oh, well, I don't care. Where do you want to go?
Yeah. Yeah. Be agreeable is like, you know, the key, like, key to Southern hospitality. Like.
Yes. So as a 9, it's like be agreeable to the nth degree at any cost. So for example.
So what does that look like?
So for example, like in high school, I had these friends and we all wanted to go to the movies, right? Literally and it was a big group of friends. Literally everybody wanted to see this like super scary movie. It's like Insidious or something like that. And I did not want to see it with my entire being. I hate scary movies anyway. And I was like, this is going to give me nightmares. I don't want to go see this. And I literally didn't say anything.
Like you just let them talk you into it? Or?
No, not like peer pressure. Like, oh, come on, come see the movie, you sissy. Yeah. Like, I literally didn't say anything because I thought that if I told them that I really didn't want to see this, that they like wouldn't be my friend anymore.
Wow.
That they legitimately like wouldn't like me, wouldn't want to hang out with me. Like,
Yeah.
it got serious. And so like,
Why do you think that is? Do you think that's because like the whole desire for peace thing that just when you, so like help us to understand that. So like when you don't feel peace, like you think that everything is just completely the opposite direction.
yes,
All right. So there's no like middle ground. Like it's either peace or it's just total anarchy.
it is total chaos all the time. So I think,
Cause that's pretty, I mean, honestly, like it's a pretty dramatic conclusion, to just go straight to that. Like help us help me understand that.
yeah. So one of the things listening to this book helped me realize was that like as a 9, so like yes, I have inner and outer peace that I want to maintain, but like one of my main motivators is like I have this fear of like separation or loss. So like losing friends or being separated from everybody else. So I'm just agreeable at all costs in order to be included.
Yeah.
And so it was eye-opening to learn that that is one of my biggest fears, which,
Interesting. Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, oh wow, like that's really scary that I would let something like that affect seeing a scary movie affect like my friendships,
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm walking through this whole conversation with you, and like we've had this conversation multiple times, and it's almost like I don't want to like put myself out there because I'm scared people won't like me.
Yeah.
But like people can't like me if they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
So it's been different.
That's so true.
And we're getting real, guys. Get real. So anyway, it was really interesting listening to the book and realizing that that's what I go through. I have this fear of like being separate from people. So honestly, you have helped me like be who I am all the time. So I'm trying to be honest with people and just like I have to power through. And so when you say like, which movie do you want to watch? I immediately think like, okay, which one does he want to watch? Is that the right answer? And then I have to seriously think like, okay, he's going to love me regardless. What movie do I want to watch? Like, I want to watch this little kid Christmas movie. Can we watch that? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, yes. It's like a win that like, not only do I get to watch the movie I picked, but I also maintain you as my husband. It seems silly and trivial, but like, that's how it feels so real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you put it that way, it does seem, a bit strange, but I mean, we all want to be liked, right? We all want to be liked. We all want to be accepted, like deep down, whether we say it or not. Like, even the people who are just like, no, I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, that's just a whole image, that they typically will play into, it. And so how do you feel like that's different than just your normal, like, I just want to be liked? Or maybe the response is different. Like, how do you feel like as a type 9, like, how do you feel like your response to wanting to be liked is different or unique, or how is it, for a type 9?
So I think it's a little bit different because I think normal people, I say normal, I think other people,
other types
would like engage in some kind of disagreement, and it's like, well, it's okay, we'll just compromise. Whereas like for me, like I am trying to avoid conflict at all times, not like doing things to preemptively like avoid conflict, but like I don't want to engage in any kind of negativity, any kind of conflict at all whatsoever. So like I will do whatever it takes to not have that imbalance in my inner peace.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like any kind of conflict is like not okay.
Yeah.
It's that chaos, it's that black and white that I deal with, and it's not fun.
Yeah. So even torturing yourself with scary movies.
Yep.
Is there any other situations you found yourself in trying to avoid, that same situation?
Honestly, in our marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we first started, when we first got married and we were like having conflicts, getting moved in together, which is like you're melding two lives. Like,
Yeah.
of course there's going to be conflict, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to work through that. But in my mind, everything just went haywire. It was like my brain was on fire because, oh my God, there's this conflict. Like, I don't know how to handle it. And everything was so off balance that I couldn't avoid the conflict because I couldn't avoid you and I didn't want to,
Yeah.
but I also didn't want to enter into the conflict.
Yeah.
I didn't want to engage.
Because that's where things were not okay. If you entered into conflict, it may come out the other side with results that you desperately did not want.
Exactly. Like, what if you leave me because I want Mexican food? It sounds so silly, but literally that's how it felt. It felt like every silly little argument we had was like, oh my God, this is the end. This is the end. What are we going to do? I don't know what to do. And you were like, hey, it's okay that I just don't want Asian food again. And I'm like, really? Like, you still love me? I just want fried rice. So it's crazy now to think about it. And it's like, I do think I've grown, but I definitely still struggle with a lot of that inner conflict. It's taken a lot of taking a second, okay, he still loves me. We're still married. And it's okay to have a little conflict because we're going to work through it together and we're going to come out stronger on the other side. So I'm very grateful to you for walking with me and holding my hand in conflict because I hate it with every fiber of my being.
Yeah, of course. So tell us a little bit more. So you discovered you were 9. You absolutely hated it.
So embarrassed.
Self-awareness is not really a fun thing.
No.
But
it's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely necessary. Necessary struggle, sometimes self-inflicted, of course.
Oh God, yeah.
But, how do you think that shaped, your life going forward, from then? Did you struggle to discover that? And how did you respond? Internally?
I think initially I just kind of leaned into it. It's almost like I felt seen. Oh, okay, this is who I am. It's okay. Which at the end of the book, Ian Morgan says okay, now it's up to you what you do with this. You can just move on with your life, whatever, or you can be aware and awake to what you know now and try to be better. And so that's definitely hard for me because I am a procrastinator, not a self-starter, but it's been interesting to change my frame of mind into hey, it's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to act out in anger. And it's okay to engage in conflict, so it's kind of one of those things where I have to tell myself that everything's going to be okay. And this is normal. Conflict is normal. Being angry is normal. It's been, I think being awake to all of that has helped me also realize that I can't do everything on my own, So I think once I was finally awake to the fact that I'm a procrastinator, it was okay, well, I'm just going to do a lot better. And then when I didn't do a lot better the next day, I didn't really know where to go. So you've helped me a lot with hey, if you struggle to remember stuff, just write it down. Having little tips to make things a lot easier on myself because, I've got some limitations. So
yeah,
it's definitely caused a lot of growth that is uncomfortable, but I think it's made me better.
Yeah. How do you think it's made you better?
Oh God, with the heavy hitters. I think it's made me more awake to my own emotions. I never knew that I was angry, and now I know that I'm angry, and it's okay, I have to deal with that, and I have to make sure that I don't take that out on you when it's not necessary. That's, if I'm angry, that's not your fault. You don't deserve to be yelled at. I think it's also called me to pay attention and not be sleepwalking through my life. It's caused me to pay attention to when I slip into those negative cycles,
yeah,
or when I stop let me back up. One of the things that was very interesting to me is he said, like, nines, they struggle with sloth, they struggle with laziness, and I definitely struggle with that still.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he guards against is he says, like, don't get lazy with your faith.
Yeah.
And that one has hit home. And I honestly forgot about it until I was talking to somebody about it recently. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's where I've been. I've been lazy in my faith. Like, I need to spend time with God. I need to dive into this because, like, that's what's really going to help me get better,
Yeah.
So I think it's just being awake to all of that and then, like, paying attention to it has helped me get better, because once you know what's going on, then you know how to fix it.
Yeah.
You can't just come to a doctor and say, oh, my tummy hurts. Like, he's got to figure out what the actual problem is and then treat the problem.
Yeah.
So figuring out my emotions has been weird.
Yeah. I think that's the case for everyone. But so I don't want to take up just a ton of time here, but it's super fascinating. So what's been some positives that because there's good and bad in all the types, and for those of you listening, like, there's also healthy and unhealthy versions of those types, and so that's why someone could be the same type and they could look somewhat different.
Yeah.
And they could be in different places in their growth and in their life, but it seems like you've really embraced just the negative aspects of it.
Yeah.
And just really still, I think, actively working through a lot of that.
Yeah.
So what has been like, what were some of the moments that you discovered about your little self that you just smiled and like, yes, like,
yes,
I like that I'm this way.
So one of the sentences too that describes a 9 is like, being outside is very soothing for me. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. I just love to be outside. So, like, even if we're just at home drinking coffee, Tyler makes fun of me. I like to take my coffee and I walk through the cul-de-sac just happy as a clam because I got my coffee and it's sunny outside. I just love to be outside. So I've definitely embraced that. I think something else too is like, as a 9 and like in an effort to avoid conflict, I only look at the positive side, which tends to make me a relatively positive person.
Yeah.
But it also made, I think
everyone understands that about you.
But I'll just have to say the downside to that is I just avoided anything that was bad. So it's like having to find that balance between like reality but still being positive has been tough. But it gives me a positive outlook on pretty much everything. So I'm like, it's okay that this is broken because we can fix it.
Yeah.
And it's okay that this happened because now we get to do A, B, and C. So like, it's okay if this showing canceled, like, even though that's a bummer, like, now we get to go have tacos, So like, I definitely look at the bright side, which I think hopefully has helped you.
Sometimes is extremely frustrating.
It is. Yeah. He's like, you're invalidating. Like, just be okay with the bad. But yes, I see where you're coming from. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. So, so you kind of got excited about, I am one of those people that see the positive in things.
I am.
I try to spin things, and
yes,
it's the spinning, I think, that gets me. It's not the positivity. Like,
that's true.
I definitely appreciate the positivity. Like, that always means the world. It's when something is obviously and clearly negative and it tries to be spun into positive. That's like, just let it be bad.
I can't do it.
It is what it is. Let the good be good and let the bad be bad.
And I can't do it. And like, the bad also has to be good. Like, it's got to be that way. Oh.
Yeah, it's like the silver lining, and it's like,
it is.
It means absolutely nothing in most cases.
I know it. Oh, I know it. To answer your question though, like, I've definitely embraced the good sides of it. And hopefully I'm able to kind of like show that with other people,
Yeah.
But I mean, I like being a 9. I think I also bring a lot of balance to your life. You're a 1, which we'll get into in the next episode.
You weren't supposed to tell everyone.
Oh no, spoilers.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Oh no. You got me. No, so Tyler's a 1, so I bring a lot of balance to your life because while I am a procrastinator, you also need to slow down sometimes.
Never.
Yes.
Never.
Yes.
So we'll definitely get more into that hopefully next time.
Yes.
But definitely appreciate you sharing that much, sharing so much of that, Jackie. I know if you're listening and a 9 and have a 9 in your life, you know how difficult it is for them to share. So definitely appreciate that. But it's just helped us to understand, like as frustrating as some of that stuff can be. And we didn't even really get into the history of why you feel like you might be a 9. Maybe that somebody will have to just buzz in and ask that question.
Yeah, somebody asked.
And we'll have to dive into that a little bit if Jackie's willing to. But we're all shaped by different things.
Yeah.
And so when we become aware, right, not just of ourselves, but also, of our spouse, then we begin to realize, like, we understand it's not just a frustrating habit, or it's not just this frustrating thing. Like, this is why they process things this way.
Yeah.
And it's like, now, like, I can actually help with this other than just get, upset about it.
Yeah. Because you understand better where I'm coming from.
Yeah. But I will say, like, just bringing a little balance here, bringing a little negativity in. Sometimes it's frustrating to realize how much of a pattern it is.
Yeah.
And that, if it's not something that ever gets better, like, yes, from where I once understood, now it's like, hey, like, this keeps happening. Like, we got to work through this.
Yeah.
But, it's also being able to recognize those things, right? Anyway, so I think that's about all the time that we have for this episode.
Yeah.
It's been super fun. Thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing so much of just what all's been going on, getting super real.
Super real.
But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Again, Stay tuned for next episode where I'm going to be sharing about my Enneagram type. I could get pretty wordy with this one, so just
it's going to be good.
Be prepared. I hope so. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Again, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Anywhere you podcast, give us a rating. Share it with somebody you think would benefit from this. We really just want to get this out here. Really not even trying to do anything else with it. I'll actually drop a link to the book if we don't get paid for it, but I'll drop a link to the book in the show notes as well. But anyway, this is the 2 is Greater podcast, where we share our experiences with all the ups and the downs of working together without killing each other.
Not yet anyway.
Not yet anyway. Until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.